Welcome back to Andertons TV.
Greetings, everybody. Hello.
Yes, a virtual Berlin Wall of Mesa Boogie amplifiers separates East from West today. But in true David Hasselhoff style, we're going to try and break that down.
And I come from the East as well, so that's kind of good.
That is good. Right, so if you want to participate in today's challenge, which is basically, can Rob tell the difference between a real Boogie dual rectifier and one of these many alternatives? You will have to look away from your screen now so that you don't see me changing and pressing buttons. Rob, however, is not able to see what buttons I'm pressing because we have cleverly obscured his line of vision.
Well, not only is it obscured with this massive wall of valves, but also he's using a MIDI controller, so I can't, even if I could see the pedals, I wouldn't know which one he's touching.
All right, so the switching today is going to allow me to switch between channel 3 of this here original Boogie dual rectifier 100-watt head going into the 4x12 underneath. Alternatively, I can route any one of these 5 pedals on its Mesa Boogie mode, if it has a Mesa Boogie mode, or a couple of these pedals here are just out-and-out dual rectifier copies, into the effects return of this other Mesa Boogie dual rectifier underneath. So I've switched all the cabinet emulation off in the pedals, and we're just going straight into the power amp return and the same cab. So it's a little bit like the Can Pete Tell Which Is the Real Marshall amp test that we did a few months ago.
I'm sure I'll do a lot worse than Pete.
So we're going to do 2 sides to this video, or 2 parts to this video. One is Rob won't know which the real amplifier is, and he's simply got to go, I think the real amplifier is X. And then when he does know, we're going to see how close I can get each of these pedals to sound like the original amplifier by just playing with the EQ. To give you a quick rundown, we've got the Boss IR2 on its dual rec red channel. We've got the TC Ampworks dual rec. We've got the UA Knuckles. We've got the NUX amp core on a dual rectifier patch, again with all the IRs switched off. And we've got the Quad Cortex, which I appreciate is a bit more expensive than everything else.
Slightly.
But on its dual rec model, so not capture, model, again with the cabinet switched off.
And I should tell them, I'm only using one pickup all the way through, instructed by Mr. Captain.
It's going to, well, for this bit, I think we'll just stay everything on its bridge humbucker.
Yeah.
Again, if you want to watch and see what's going on, this light means this pedal's working. Here is this one. Here is this one. Here is this one. Here is this one. And this one doesn't do anything. And then over here, we are switching between the proper head and the effects return of the second head. So, Mr. Rob, let's get ready to rumble.
Wait, am I stopping and buying one? So I just say, that's the Boogie. I'm just going to stop and buy one, aren't I?
Just get ready, go through them all. When we get to the end, you can say. So I'm going to go through these now in perhaps a slightly more scientific order, and at the end of each one you can go, I think it's a real amp or I think it's a pedal.
Okay,
and you might even want to guess, you might even want to guess which pedal it is. I don't know.
All right, I'll do my best.
So let's just press lots of buttons at the same time so it completely confuses Rob as to where we are, and here we go.
That's not a Boogie.
Excellent.
I think that is the Knuckles.
Do you? Okay, right. Well, we're going not a Boogie, thinks it's a Knuckles. Let's see if we can remember all this. I haven't got any pen and paper, but that's okay. Let's try another one and see what he thinks.
quite like that one. Not an amp. I don't know which one it is. Could be the new X.
Okay. As you can see, I got a pen and paper. Right, let's try the next one.
Ready? I reckon that's the quad cortex. It's something white box. Everything's being mapped on the inside.
What does that mean? Something white box, everything's being mapped on the inside. I've never even heard that.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So white box is when every component in the model is being simulated so that the interactions and the relationships between them are all mapped together. So it's either the quad cortex or it's the knuckles, but it's not a real amp. I hope I'm wrong, because it'd be great if I'm wrong.
Okay, are you ready for number 4? Oosh!
Boss, and it's not a real amp.
That you didn't play that for very long.
I think it's the Boss.
Okay. Right. 2 more to go, I think. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oosh!
Oh dear. Not an amp. Not familiar with it. I don't know what it is. It's something I haven't played through a lot, I don't think.
Well, look, I mean, by virtue of the fact that we are on number 6 now, and so far you've said every single one is not an amp,
Yeah.
then I'm guessing this must be the amp. But what do you think after you've tried it? 3, 2, 1. Oosh!
It's not a real amp. That's more likely to be the quad cortex. So the one I initially thought was the quad cortex probably was a real amp.
Let's go through all 6 again, and I'll come to that. So, numero 1.
You're tricking me and none of them are a real amp.
One of them is definitely a real amp. So, number 1, you said it's not a real amp. I think it's the knuckles.
Okay.
Oosh!
It's not a real amp.
You're sticking with that. Okay.
Yep.
Number 2, you said it's not a real amp, but it could be the new X. Oosh!
Yeah.
Sticking with that? Okay.
Still
Number
think it
3 is the one you went, it's a white box, every component must be mapped. Oosh!
That's the Boogie.
So you think you're changing your mind now?
I think I was giving too much credence to the digital amps. That's the real Boogie, I think.
Okay, let's just finish the rest of the test off. Next one, you said it's a Boss. It's not the real amp. Ooh.
Does the Boss have a noise gate?
I'm not telling you any of them.
Okay. I think. It's not a real amp.
Okay.
So, yeah.
The next one, the fifth one. Oosh. That's the one you said it's not an amp, and I'm not familiar with it
it's not an amp,
either.
and I don't know what it is.
Okay, and then finalement, you went, it's not a real amp, it must be a QC. Oosh!
Yeah, definitely not a real amp, and it's definitely something digital. So it's either the New X or the Quad Cortex. I'm not sure which.
Okay, so what was it then about oosh that makes you feel this one is the real amp?
The low end isn't imaginary.
Right.
So the low end in the amp sounds like a real amp's low end. It's going to be great if I'm wrong.
No, I'm just...
But it's like if you told a robot to make you a coffee and you described what coffee tasted like, and it would go, "Here is your coffee, sir," and it would be like it would taste reminiscent of what you had described coffee to be, whereas this one feels and sounds like a boogie.
Well, what about you out there in YouTube land? Are you sitting there agreeing with Rob, or are you sitting there going, "No way, man, the different one sounded like a real amplifier"?
The thing is, the others sound good.
Yes.
To quote Glenn Fricker at volume, playing in a mix, you're never going to know. I mean, unless you're really, really skilled. These are sounding like they should be placed in a mix. The real amp, you have to work with it to get it in the mix because there's unwanted low end that you don't need.
Do you know what? I hear that. Right, here's the reveal, by the way. Congratulations, Rob. The one you thought is a real amp is a real amp. And we'll talk about what the others were in a minute, because the second half of the video, I think, we'll try and tweak the others now to sort of see if we can make them sound, more like the real amplifier. But I hear that kind of, that statement, at volume, audience can, in a mix, that an audience will never tell and blah. Where does it only matter if the artist can hear or feel a difference?
Yeah.
And where does it only matter even if that feel or difference is psychosomatic? Like it's not even really there, but you think it's there.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking of all these different analogies, and I was just sort of thinking, I wonder, like, if you're a sports person, if you're a footballer, and you've got 20 different brands of football boot, do you think that any fan in the crowd is going to noticeably see you play better or worse, regardless of which pair of boots you decide to play?
That's a good analogy.
But every footballer will have the boot that they think gives them something.
But it's
And
about
feel
the
like that's
feel,
with-
isn't it?
I think that's all it is with guitars and amplifiers and pedals and stuff like that. Yes, we've come a long, long way from the 1980s, where arguably anyone could tell the difference between a digital rig and a real amp rig, to the point now where the differences are tiny nuances. But does it
matter?
Isn't it still really important that the artist, the person plugging into it, just goes, "Yep, this is the best tone I can get, and I'm super familiar." Or,
what,
is
Lee?
it all
It's got-
rubbish because in-ear?
Well,
is
that's
like
it. I was literally going to get to that.
Yeah.
If you're working with in-ears, it doesn't really matter
Yeah,
anyway.
because it all sounds crap.
Well, no, but you'll have that in-ear mic'd up sound. So you're going to have a mic'd up amplifier, or you're going to have a mic sim, amp sim. But the thing is, for me now, it's down to the way it feels, not the way it sounds. And some of these felt close or reminiscent to the real thing.
I ended up, just for simplicity's sake, running through them pretty much in the order that they're on the table. So the first one was the Boss IR2 on its dual rectifier mode. You thought that was the Knuckles.
Oh, wow.
The second one was the TC dual rec, which you thought could be the New X. The third one was the real amp, which initially you thought was a QC.
Yeah.
The fourth one was the Knuckles, which you thought was the Boss. The fifth one was the New X, which you went, "I'm not familiar with it," so you didn't even guess. And then the final one you said, "I think that's the Quad Cortex," and it was the Quad Cortex.
Right.
So let's just, now that we're saying this is what they are, let's play for a bit on the real amp, and then
Okay.
you can get this idea of the tone.
lot smoother sounding,
Yeah,
isn't it?
let's try it on that neck pickup as well, because you've got all the responsiveness things
Yeah.
now. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to the IR2, the Boss IR2. I mean, from here, there's just no bass end at all.
There's no bass end whatsoever.
Which
yeah.
is...
It sounds more like a distortion pedal that's been put through a speaker cabinet. If I'm
Yeah,
honest
I mean, look, let's see what we can do. So again, just to be clear, we've disabled the cabinet emulation in all of these pedals, but we are running it into the power amp and the 4x12, and that's what you're hearing, mic'd up. So you think... Okay, so listen how much bass comes in if I just dial it in. It was on 12 before, but...
Yeah. So it's adding bass in the wrong place.
So let's just switch back to the real amp. You are right. It's fake bass, isn't it?
Yeah, it's bass where you would never have it on a guitar amp.
So before I finish on, is there anything else you'd like me to tweak? So on the Boss, I've got bass, middle, treble, and I've got level and gain. So is there anything else you'd like me to do?
Yeah, could you turn it off?
In all seriousness, come on.
No, in all seriousness, I think there's not a lot you can do with the controls that you've got there, because the bass control is adding bass in the wrong place. You would need an 8-band, 12-band EQ to get rid of that bass and then focus it more where the real amp sits. So it's just voice.
Maybe you are better off with the IR2 actually using it with your favourite IR, where you can tweak that and get that sound just right rather than using it like this. So, all right. Okay, should we try the TC dual rec now?
Yeah, man. So this has got a very slightly harsh upper mid.
Yeah, but I think the bass is more realistic.
It's much more realistic.
So let's just try the real amp again.
So where the Boss had artificial low end, this has got kind of weird high end.
It's hard to know what to do on. So do I have a presence?
But it's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's a sound. You know what it sounds like, Lee? It sounds like it's been mic'd up right in the centre.
I've got a presence control on the back, which I haven't mucked around with much. And again, I've got bass, middle, treble
Back it
again.
off, mate.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay, try it again now.
That's better.
Try.
There is a...
Sorry, keep playing whilst it's... Do you want to have a go at telling me which is the real amp again now?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I've sort of done that whole sort of like... Go on.
You ready? That's not the real amp.
Okay, you're still correct then. All right, that's a lot closer. The problem again is that the bass, middle and treble EQ points aren't... So when you say, oh, it's got like an upper mid-range I don't like, the mid-range and the treble control, neither of those are in the right place.
Well, because then it's not able to recreate the curve exactly. But also, this TC, it sounds good, but it's very slightly fizzy.
Right.
It's trying to create the gain in a way that is, you know...
It's not bad for 100 quid,
No,
though,
it's
is it?
not bad at all. No, it sounds good.
Right, let's try the Knuckles. Obviously, the QC is the most expensive of what we've got on the table here, but of course, QC does a zillion other things. So that really, the Knuckles is probably the most expensive because all it does is be a Knuckles pedal. Some of you would be going, what's going on here with it? I'm obviously I've saved the setting as a preset so that we've got no cabinet simulation on, but trust me, the pedal is on. So let's just do again, jumping between, I think if anything, there's a lot more gain in the Knuckles, but here's the amp. And here's the Knuckles.
Yeah, it's
a lot.
Absolutely brutal. So dial back the gain. And is there any way you could turn off the noise gate?
Yeah.
That's a lot better. And now remove some of the treble.
It's still not as...
No, there's
not got the girth, has it?
It's missing the lower mid, yeah.
Which,
but it sounds good, though. Yeah, still, again, it's slightly fizzy, a little bit too harsh, and the low end isn't quite right.
it feels to me like the Knuckles is trying to do the imaginary haloed dual rec sound in a way that almost the real amp maybe doesn't even... It's the imaginary dual rec sound.
This might get me a lot of heat and nastiness, but it sounds like they're all trying too hard, because the Boogie isn't that harsh. It's a slightly softer amplifier. I mean, I don't play with the rec a lot, but when I do, I don't find it to be this like harsh gang 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 kind of nasal thing. And I think they're all a lot harsher than a real Boogie is.
But just in case you can't see on the close-up cam, gain 3 modern setting, but I've not done much here. Presence is slightly above 12, bass is slightly below 12, everything else is 12 basically. So we're not kind of trying to dial in an extreme tone.
It's like, there's an interesting thing here. There's a psychology thing going on. You know how people that don't actually play a JCM 800 think a JCM 800 sounds? And actually, more to the point, how people that never played a Plexi think a Plexi sounds, as opposed to how a Plexi actually sounds. It's like they're playing the sound that people think a dual rec sounds like.
I suppose most of us have only heard a dual rectifier or a Plexi or a JCM 800 on an album, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're hearing,
You're hearing a full volume, mic'd up, studio produced version of the amplifier.
Probably with a great guitar player playing it as well.
Yeah.
But look, I kind of feel the Knuckles is...
It's good.
I don't know, the Knuckles feels like for my sort of imaginary dual rectifier sound, it's pretty close. I actually think the TC one is doing the best job so far of sounding like the amp. Right, number 3 was the NUX amp core. Again, the amp core's got quite a lot of stuff in it, but this is its 1992
Hit Me
dual
Daddy
rec thing.
It needs to be slightly more livened up with the presence.
Okay.
Like a high mid.
That's better when I haven't actually done anything, is the classic guitar player.
There you go.
That's the classic guitar player. Oh gosh, what have I done now? Hang on. So what did you want me to do? More presence?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
Here we go, more presence, more presence.
That's it. No, it went a little bit imaginary.
Well, I just think it's so nasal sounding, this
Yeah.
one. I was trying to scoop the mid-range, but like you say, then it just becomes all make-believe
Yeah,
as well,
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
it? So let's just hit real amplifier,
Yep.
Nuance.
It's not bad. It's just I feel
hasn't
like
got the girth.
it's not got the girth. It should be fatter.
Yes.
It needs to be fed more.
And then finalement, I did literally no research, by the way, on this at all. I plugged the quad cortex in, I went to amp models, and I found the first one that said CA Duo Channel 3 Modern, which should be this.
I've got a tunage, but it sounds good. It's lacking that low end punch.
That is
isn't it?
just absolutely got the gain sound closest from where I'm sitting, which I appreciate is behind
Yeah,
the
no.
cab. But as you're right, none of them do the girth.
No.
Like the real amp does.
Like
But
a 412, yeah, that's
maybe
right.
that's the some justification in spending £3,000 on a real valve amplifier as opposed to one of
and
these.
that's interesting because that means the girth cannot come from the speaker cabinet.
Because they're all running into the power amp in the speaker cabinet.
It's
Yeah,
coming
that's
from
true.
the preamp. So the preamps aren't voiced quite
Interesting.
right. Yeah.
That's true. Well, look, there we are.
That was interesting for me, actually. The Quad Cortex is the closest, I think.
You would hope, because the quad cortex is 10 times the price as everything.
Well, that's a good point. To be fair, the Boss versus the Quad Cortex is a bit harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Give me that Boss one more time. And then go Quad Cortex. It's just more of a complex sound, isn't it? There's more in the sound. That's what it is. But the Boss sounds all right.
How did you get on? Which did you guess? Are you rushing out now to splurge your life savings on a Boogie dual rectifier, or sitting there gleefully enjoying in the fact that the 150 quid you spent on one of these is doing the job just fine? Thank you, Mr. Chapman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Au revoir.